Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something that I am honestly incredibly excited about because we're stepping away from the usual tech trends or historical mysteries we cover, and we're looking at something the source material describes as a massive cosmic threshold.
Yeah, massive is definitely the word for it.
Right. So we are talking about time, specifically a very specific slice of future time, March 2026. And we're looking at it through the lens of the Libra.
It is, it's a fascinating case study. And I think it's important to say right up front, even if you are not a Libra or, if you don't track the movement of the planets on a daily basis, the themes we're unpacking today are universally human.
Exactly. Because it's not really just about a horoscope.
No, it's not. It's about the fundamental tension between me and we.
Right.
It's about how we structure our lives versus how we dream about our lives.
Yeah. Right. I was reading through this stack of sources we have, the forecasts, the astrological charts, these deep dive analyses, and the language is just intense. It is not subtle at all. We aren't talking about, oh, you might lose your keys on Tuesday.
Definitely not losing keys.
Yeah, the source material is using phrases like architectural shift, historic era, and structural integrity.
That's because looking at the astrological geography for March 2026, we aren't just seeing the usual monthly traffic. We aren't just seeing the moon changing phases or Mercury going retrograde for a few weeks, which is what people usually panic about.
Right, the usual suspect.
Exactly. We are seeing heavy, slow-moving giants, specifically Saturn and Neptune, shifting into entirely new territories. When these outer planets move, they don't just change the mood for a day. They define eras.
The headline that kept popping up in the research, the phrase that really anchors this entire conversation, is the Great Rebalancing, which honestly, and tell me if I'm crazy here, sounds a bit corporate, like a restructuring memo sent out by HR.
It does sound a bit like a corporate restructuring, doesn't it? But think about the archetype of Libra. Libra is the scales. That is their symbol. So the concept of rebalancing is usually their bread and butter. That's what they do.
They're the diplomats.
Right. But the source material suggests this isn't a gentle adjustment. This isn't just tapping the scale to get it even. This is realizing the table the scale is sitting on is broken.
Wow. Okay, that is a huge claim. The source explicitly states that this month, March 2026, is the beginning of a multi-year era that entirely redefines how Libras relate to the world. So our mission today is to verify that. We need to decode what the Great Rebalancing actually means on a practical level.
And we need to figure out who the players are, why the stakes are so high, and what this new bridge the source talks about actually looks like.
Precisely. We're going to strip away the jargon where we can, but we're also going to define the technical terms because, in this case, the mechanics really matter. You can't understand the psychological shift if you don't understand the astrological geography, as the source calls it.
So let's set the scene. The primary source we're working with is described as a 10-minute deep dive forecast that acts as a blueprint for the month. But the tone isn't casual at all. It feels urgent.
So why is March 2026 such a specific flashpoint? Why not February? Why not April?
It really comes down to convergence. In astrology, you often have spread out events. Maybe one big planet moves in January and then nothing happens until June. But March 2026 acts as a funnel. You have the Aries ingress, which is just a fancy way of saying major planets moving into the sign of Aries, and simultaneously you have a massive lunar eclipse.
It's a traffic jam of cosmic energy.
A huge traffic jam. And for Libra, this traffic jam is happening in a very specific, very sensitive part of their chart.
The seventh house.
The seventh house.
Okay, let's pause and unpack that immediately. The seventh house. If I'm a listener who thinks a house is just the thing I pay a mortgage on, what are we talking about here?
Imagine the sky is a 360-degree circle. Now slice that circle like a pizza into 12 equal pieces. Those are the houses. Each slice, or house, governs a specific department of human life. The first house is you. Your body, your identity, your ego.
Okay, so the first house is the selfie camera.
I love that, yes. The first house is the selfie. Now look directly across the pizza. The opposite slice is the seventh house. If the first house is me, the seventh house is not me. It is the other.
So we're talking about relationships.
Yes, but specifically committed relationships. We aren't talking about the fifth house, which covers fun, romance, gambling, and flings.
Yeah.
The seventh house is the sector of contracts. It's marriage. It's long-term business partnerships. It's the person you are legally bound to.
You know, the source material made a really interesting point about this being the house of open enemies, too, which seems wild to me. Your spouse and your enemy are in the same room.
It makes sense if you think about it structurally. Both a marriage and a lawsuit require a contract. They both require you to face one other person directly. They both require you to define yourself in relation to that other person. So the seventh house is really the house of one-on-one engagement.
Got it. So the headline news is that major planets Saturn and Neptune are moving into Aries. And for a Libra, Aries is that seventh house slice of the pizza.
Correct, and this is crucial context. Aries is the opposite sign to Libra.
Why does the opposition matter? Why is it such a big deal that these planets are in the opposite sign?
Think about physics. Polarity. Opposites attract, but they also create tension. Libra is ruled by Venus. It's the sign of peace, harmony, diplomacy, aesthetics. Aries is ruled by Mars. It's the sign of war, self-assertion, independence, and speed.
So we have the planets entering the sign of war, which is sitting in the Libra's house of relationships. That sounds like a powder keg.
Basically, yes. When planets move into your opposite sign, they act like a mirror. You don't necessarily feel the energy bubbling up inside you. Instead, you see it coming at you from other people. You experience these planetary archetypes through your partner, your business associate, or your open enemy.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. We have a mirror held up to relationships, and the reflection is looking incredibly intense. Now, let's talk about who's actually showing up in that mirror. The first character the source introduces is Saturn.
The heavy hitter, the omnipotent.
The source calls Saturn the planet of karma, structure, and reality checks. Now, I have to be honest, karma and reality checks doesn't sound like a fun date night.
No, Saturn is rarely the life of the party. In mythology, Saturn is Kronos, father time. He is the one who holds the scythe. He represents limitation, boundaries, and the inevitable passage of time.
That sounds grim.
It can feel grim, but it's actually highly protective. Saturn is the skeletal system. Without your bones, you'd just be a puddle on the floor. You need structure to stand up. But the process of building that structure or fixing it if it's broken can be painful.
So Saturn moving into the relationship sector, what does that look like on a random Tuesday morning? What is the actual vibe?
It looks like the end of ambiguity. That is the hallmark of Saturn. He hates maybe. He hates, oh, let's just see where it goes. The source is very specific here. It says, casual or flaky connections will no longer cut it.
Will no longer cut it. That feels like an ultimatum.
It is a complete ultimatum. Imagine Saturn walking into your relationship with a clipboard, a flashlight, and a structural engineer's hard hat. He is looking at the foundation of the partnership. He's asking difficult questions. Is there a future here? Is there a commitment? Are the rules defined? Is this load-bearing?
And if the answer is no, if the relationship is just for fun,
then Saturn applies pressure, immense pressure. This is why the source talks about the demand for long-term stability. If a relationship is flimsy, if it's built on sand, Saturn will likely break it. Not because he hates love, but because he hates waste. He absolutely hates wasted time.
So for a Libra, in March 2026, if they are in a situationship, that modern thing where you're dating but not dating, texting but not committed, Saturn is going to force a conversation.
Absolutely. It's the what are we conversation, but on steroids. And notice this isn't just romantic. This applies to business partners too. If you have a business partner who is flaky, who isn't pulling their weight, or whose contract is vague, Saturn will expose that structural weakness.
The source uses the phrase build it solid or let it go. That feels like the mantra for this entire transit.
It's binary. Saturn is binary. Yes or no. In or out. Sign the contract or leave the building.
But this deep dive is focused on the Great Rebalancing. How does this harsh binary Saturn energy help a Libra rebalance?
Think about the Libra archetype again. What is the shadow side of Libra?
Indecision. Trying to make everyone happy.
Exactly. People-pleasing. Avoiding conflict to maintain a nice atmosphere. A Libra will often endure a really bad situation just to keep the peace. Saturn is conflict, or at least he is the confrontation of reality. By forcing the Libra to look at the hard truth of a relationship, Saturn forces them to stop people-pleasing and start structure building.
I see. You can't balance a scale if one side is filled with fluff or fake promises. Saturn removes the fluff.
Right. You cannot have equilibrium if you're pouring your energy into a black hole. Saturn stops the leak.
So the friction is the point. If things feel heavy or serious in your relationships in March 2026, that isn't a sign that things are going wrong. It's a sign the audit is working.
The friction is the feature, not the bug.
Okay, so we have the auditor in the room. He's checking receipts. He's demanding commitment. But then, and this is where the source material gets really cinematic, it introduces a second character entering the exact same room at the exact same time, Neptune.
And this is where the plot thickens into a really complex drama. Because if you asked any astrologer to pick two planets that are total diametric opposites, they would pick Saturn and Neptune.
The source describes Neptune's influence as having a divine, almost spiritual quality.
Neptune is the dissolver. Saturn builds walls, Neptune dissolves them. Saturn is rock, Neptune is water. Saturn is the hard reality of the tax return. Neptune is the dream, the fantasy, the movie.
So we have the auditor and the dreamer walking into the relationship sector simultaneously. That sounds like a recipe for absolute confusion.
It's a recipe for a paradox. And the source highlights this tension beautifully. It talks about soulmate potential. That's Neptune. Neptune craves union. Not a legal contract, but a spiritual union. A merging where you don't know where you end and the other person begins.
That sounds lovely. A lot better than Clipboard Guy, honestly.
It feels lovely. It's the high, it's the romance novel. But the source also flashes a giant neon warning sign. The danger zone. Specifically, it warns of rose-colored glasses.
Right, because if you can't see where you end and the other person begins, you might miss the fact that the other person is actually a disaster.
Exactly. Neptune glamorizes. It puts a soft focus filter on everything. In the 7th house, Neptune can make you fall in love with potential. You see the soul of the person, you feel their pain, you connect with their spirit, but you completely ignore the reality of their behavior.
You fall in love with who they could be, not who they actually are.
Precisely. And that is the trap. That is the delusion.
So how do these two coexist?
Mhm.
We have Saturn saying, look at the cold hard facts, and Neptune saying, feel the magical vibe. The source says the key to March 2026 is to synthesize them. But how? That seems impossible.
This is the core of the Great Rebalancing. It's about learning to hold two opposing truths in your head at the same time. The source says you must see partners exactly as they are. That's Saturn. But it also speaks to being ready for deep, authentic love. That's Neptune.
So it's about applied romance.
Yeah.
Or skepticism with a heart.
I like to use the glass and water analogy here. Think of Neptune as water. It's emotion, love, spirit, empathy. It has no shape. If you just pour water on the table, what happens?
It makes a mess, it flows everywhere. Eventually it evaporates or ruins the wood.
Right. That is a Neptune relationship without Saturn. Lots of feelings, overwhelming connection, but no container. It eventually dries up or causes damage. Now, think of Saturn as a glass.
Okay, it's a container.
It's a structure, it has boundaries, it has a shape. But if you have just the glass, what do you have?
You have an empty cup, it's dry.
Exactly. It's rigid and empty. That's a relationship that is all duty and no love, a marriage of convenience. The Great Rebalancing is about having the water in the glass.
That is such a fantastic image. So, for you listening, the actionable advice here is don't choose between romance and reality. Use the reality to hold the romance.
Yes. When you meet someone new in March 2026, or even when you're looking at your spouse of 20 years, you have to do both checks. The Saturn check, do they show up? Do they pay their share? Are they reliable? Is the glass solid? And the Neptune check is their magic. Is there kindness? Do we connect on a soul level? Is there water in the glass?
You have Neptune, but no Saturn.
You have a heartbreak waiting to happen. You have a soulmate who borrows money and never pays it back.
And if you have Saturn, but no Neptune,
You have a business arrangement. You have a roommate you share a tax bracket with, but no passion.
so the Great Rebalancing is about becoming a structural engineer for your own love life, building a container that is strong enough to actually hold the ocean.
Beautifully put. And remember, this is happening in Aries. Aries is the sign of the self. So this isn't just about what the partner is doing. It's about you asserting your need for both. A Libra often sacrifices their own needs to keep the peace. Aries says, no, I need the glass and the water. I'm not settling for just one.
That's empowering. It shifts the Libra from being a passive observer of relationships to the architect.
Correct. The architect. That is the new role. And let's not pretend this is easy. It is much easier to just get lost in the Neptune fantasy or just get cold and rigid with Saturn. Integrating them is high-level work.
So the work of a lifetime, really. But the source says it starts in March.
It starts now.
Okay, so we've renovated the relationship house, we've dealt with the soulmates and the auditors, but the source material shifts gears pretty aggressively in Section 2. We move from the high drama of relationships to something very mundane. Section 2 is titled The Daily Grind, Health, Efficiency, and the Sixth House.
It feels like a bit of a letdown, doesn't it? We were just talking about cosmic love and soul contracts, and now we're talking about chores and vitamins.
Right. But the source insists this is critical. It mentions a strong Pisces influence.
We really have to pay attention to this. While all that fire and drama is happening in the seventh house with Aries, we have the Sun and Mercury moving through Pisces in the sixth house.
Again, definitions are helpful here. Sixth house.
The sixth house is the engine room of your life. It's the basement. It's where the plumbing is. It governs your daily routines, your physical health, your hygiene, your coworkers, your pets, your to-do list. It's the unsexy stuff that actually keeps life running.
And Pisces is in there. Pisces is water, right?
Pisces is the ocean. It's boundless, sensitive, psychic, dissolving. It is the most absorptive sign in the zodiac.
So we have the ocean in the engine room. That sounds like a flood risk.
It can be. When you put watery, sensitive, emotional energy into the house of physical health and routine, things get soggy.
The source makes a very specific prediction here. It says Libras might feel a bit more tired than usual.
I think that's the understatement of the year.
Why? Why does Pisces in the health
Perfect,
sector
man.
make you tired? Is it just because you're bored by the routine?
No, it's physiological. Pisces is porous. It absorbs everything. If the sixth house is your physical body and Pisces is in it, your body becomes a sponge for the emotional environment. You aren't just processing your own feelings, you are processing the feelings of everyone around you.
So you're not just tired from lifting weights or working late. You're tired from feeling.
You're tired from processing data that isn't yours. Remember the seventh house drama we just talked about? The Saturn audits, the Neptune confusion? That is exhausting, high-stakes emotional work. Your conscious mind is dealing with it, but your body, the sixth house, is processing the residue.
So the tiredness is actually a symptom of the rebalancing.
It's the cost of doing business. You are renovating your life. That takes energy.
The source calls this the universe telling you to prioritize rest, which sounds like generic wellness advice. You see that on every influencer's feed, drink water, get sleep. But in this context, it feels much more strategic.
It is entirely strategic. It's a safety mechanism. Think about it. If you ignore the tiredness, if you try to power through like an Aries would, you will crash. And if you crash, you do not have the mental clarity or the emotional bandwidth to handle the Saturn negotiations in your relationships.
It's all connected. The ecosystem of the chart.
Exactly. If the engine room floods, the ship stops. The source is telling Libras you need to treat your energy like a limited resource this month. This is not the month to train for a marathon while initiating a divorce while starting a new business. You will burn out the motherboard.
Psychic hygiene? I've heard that term used in these circles before. Is that what this is?
Yes. With Mercury, which rules the mind and communication in Pisces, your mind is a sponge. Psychic hygiene means clearing the cache.
I love that computer analogy. My brain feels like it has 500 tabs open on a good day.
And Pisces in the sixth house is the spinning beach ball of death.
So the advice is literally force quit.
Force quit. Close the tabs, go offline, stare at a wall, sleep. The efficiency the source promises doesn't come from working harder or multitasking. It comes from clearing the static so you can actually function.
Now, amidst all this heaviness, the relationship audits and physical exhaustion, there's a bright spot, a silver lining. The source brings in Venus.
Thank goodness for Venus.
Venus is Libra's ruling planet, right? So she's the boss.
She is the CEO of Libra, Inc. Where she goes, the luck and the focus follow.
The source says Venus is moving through a supportive sector. It mentions financial flow and creative flow.
This is the counterbalance. The universe rarely gives you only challenges. While the relationships are stressful with Saturn and the body is tired with Pisces, the career and creative sectors are actually greased. They are moving smoothly.
It mentions expecting unexpected small wins.
These are vital for morale. Imagine you've had a tough talk with your partner, a real Saturn conversation, and you're feeling wiped out. Then you get an email, hey, that project got approved, or here's a small bonus, or someone just compliments your work out of the blue.
It's the universe throwing you a bone.
It's a dopamine hit. It keeps you in the game. It reminds you that you are competent and valued even if your personal life is under heavy construction.
The source identifies a specific superpower here. It says diplomatic skills are the key asset right now. Now, Libra is always called diplomatic. It's their stereotype. How is this different from their usual behavior?
Usually when we say Libra is diplomatic, we mean they are nice, they smooth things over, I don't want to upset anyone. But here, with Venus in a position of power and support, it's about strategic charm.
Weaponized charm.
Let's call it utility charm. It's using your innate ability to read the room to get what you need to survive the month.
Can we role play this? How do you use this Venus diplomacy to handle the Saturn problem we talked about earlier?
Okay, let's set the scene. You need to tell your partner that you can't go to their family dinner because you are exhausted. That's Pisces. And the relationship feels strained. That's Saturn. The Aries way would be, I'm not going. Your family is annoying and I'm tired.
Resulting in war.
Complete war. The unbalanced Libra way would be, I guess I'll go. I don't want to be a bother. Resulting in resentment, burnout, and eventually exploding.
Right.
But the Venus in power way, you use the charm. You say, darling, I want to be my best self for you, and right now I'm running on empty. If I go, I'll be a zombie. If I stay and rest, I can take you out tomorrow and be fully present. I love you too much to give you half of me.
Ooh, that's good. That's really good.
Right. You set the boundary, that's Saturn. You honored your fatigue, that's Pisces. But you wrapped it in love and connection, that's Venus.
You made the no sound like a gift.
That is the superpower. That is what gets you through March. You frame your boundaries as being for the relationship, not against the other person.
I love you too much to give you half of me. I'm writing that down. That is a line everyone needs to remember.
Please do. It's the ultimate Venusian jiu-jitsu.
Okay, moving on to section 3. We've done the partner, the Saturn and Neptune stuff. We've done the self-embodied with Pisces. Now we look at the crew. The social circle. The source highlights a major event, the lunar eclipse.
March 3rd. Mark the calendar.
A lunar eclipse in Leo, in the 11th house.
Eclipses are the wild cards of astrology. We track planets because they are predictable. We know where Saturn will be in 2 years. Eclipses. They are the disruptors.
Why? What makes them different from a normal full moon?
A regular full moon illuminates things. You see things clearly. An eclipse obscures and then reveals. It's a reboot. The lights go out, the system resets, the lights come back on, and the furniture has moved.
And this is happening in the 11th house.
The 11th house is the house of community. It's friendships, social networks, groups, your tribe.
Mm.
And interestingly, it's also the house of your long-term hopes and dreams.
The source calls this the social shift. And it outlines a binary outcome again, similar to Saturn. It says you might see a friendship reach a natural conclusion or a major group project come to fruition.
Eclipses are accelerators. They speed up timelines. If a friendship was going to end in 2 years because you've outgrown each other, the eclipse might end it on Tuesday.
That sounds harsh. Natural conclusion is a very polite way of saying a breakup.
It can be, but notice the source uses the word natural. Eclipses rarely take away things that are vital and healthy. They tend to take away things that are dead but haven't fallen off the vine yet.
Like pruning a tree.
Exactly. It's dead weight.
The source ties this to vibration alignment. It talks about aligning with people who truly share your vibration. Now, I'm a skeptic when I hear the word vibration. It sounds a bit woo-woo. Can we ground that in something more tangible?
Let's look at it through the lens of physics and economics. You have a limited amount of energy. We established that with the Pisces section. That's your vibration or your capacity. If you are hanging out with people who operate on a totally different wavelength, say, they want to party and complain, and you want to build a business and rest, there is friction. That friction costs you energy.
So misaligned vibration is just inefficiency.
It's drag. It's aerodynamic drag on your life.
And since we established that this month is about rebalancing and preserving energy, you literally cannot afford the drag anymore.
Bingo. The Saturn mandate in the 7th house, the no flakiness rule, applies to the 11th house of friends too. You are leveling up. You are building that new bridge. You cannot carry people across the bridge who refuse to walk.
That's a really tough lesson for a Libra. They want everyone to come along. They don't want to leave anyone behind. They're the sign of partnership.
That is the Libra tragedy. They will slow down their own evolution to wait for stragglers. The eclipse says time's up. The bus is leaving. You are either on it or you are not.
So if a friend drops off the radar in March, or a fight happens in your friend group, or a group chat just goes silent, the advice is to let it happen.
Let it happen. Do not chase what is leaving during an eclipse. It's leaving for a reason. If you chase it, you are chasing the drag.
But on the flip side, the source also says fruition.
Yes. Nature abhors a vacuum. The empty space left by the drag friends is filled by the flow friends. You might meet a new group. You might finally launch that community project. The eclipse clears the ground so the new structure can be built.
It really is a comprehensive house cleaning. The partner, the body, the friends, nothing is left untouched.
That's why the source calls it a threshold.
Yeah.
You don't cross a threshold in pieces, you cross it all at once.
Which brings us to the final section, the philosophy of balance. This is where the source material tries to tie all these threads together into a coherent strategy for you listening.
The synthesis. This is the so what of it all.
The source offers a closing piece of advice that seems simple but is actually quite hard. It says, don't rush the process.
Why is that hard for a Libra?
Because, and I'm guessing here, based on what we've talked about, unbalance feels like anxiety to them.
Unbalance feels like physical pain to a Libra. Their internal gyroscope is set to peace. When the scales are tipping, which they are all month with Saturn and Neptune and eclipses, the instinct is to panic and grab the nearest weight to even things out.
I'll just apologize. I'll just say yes. I'll just fix it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Rushing to the center, rushing to resolve the tension. But the source is saying no. Stay in the wobble.
This is the part that really blew my mind. The source completely redefines the concept of balance itself.
This is the aha moment.
Most of us think of balance as static, a scale sitting on a desk, perfectly still.
Equilibrium. Stasis. A dead calm.
But the source says for March 2026, balance means adjusting as the ground shifts beneath you.
That changes the image entirely. It's not a desk anymore.
I immediately thought of a surfer.
Yes. Or a skateboarder. Or a sailor on a deck in a storm.
If you stand rigid on a surfboard, if you try to be static like the scale on the desk, what happens?
You fall. You get crushed by the wave. You cannot be rigid on a moving surface.
To stay balanced on a surfboard, you have to be constantly moving, knees bent, weight shifting, adjusting to the water.
That is dynamic balance. And that is what this era requires.
So the Great Rebalancing isn't about finding a quiet room and sitting down. It's about learning to surf the chaos.
It's about agility. The Saturn-Neptune square is the wave. The eclipse is the wind. You are the surfer. You can't stop the wave. You can only adjust your stance.
That reframes everything we've talked about. The tiredness we talked about earlier, that's muscle fatigue from surfing. The relationship audit, that's choosing the right board.
And the diplomacy, that is your style on the wave.
The source summarizes this as a turning point. It says the Libra is stepping into a version of self that is stronger, more boundaries conscious, and ready for deep, authentic love.
Look at that progression. It tells the whole story. Stronger because you survived the Pisces exhaustion and learned to rest and prioritize your own engine.
Right.
More boundaries conscious because you passed the Saturn audit and learned to say no to the flakiness. And ready for love because you embraced the Neptune dream without losing the Saturn container.
It's a hero's journey in 31 days.
It's an initiation. It's growing up.
So let's bring it all home. We've covered a massive amount of ground today. If you're listening and your head is spinning a bit from all the houses and planets, let's give you the cheat sheet, the executive summary.
Okay, let's break it down.
Headline: Saturn and Neptune in the 7th house.
Yeah.
The takeaway here is your relationships are being stress tested. Build a container that's Saturn that can hold the magic that's Neptune. If it's just magic with no container, it washes away. If it's just a container, it's empty. You need both.
Then we have daily life. Sun and Mercury in the 6th house. The takeaway is your psychic immune system is under load. You will be tired. Do not push through. Prioritize rest as a strategy, not a luxury. Use your Venusian charm to buy yourself time.
Then social life. Lunar eclipse in the 11th house. Takeaway: the tribe is shifting. Some friends will leave, let them go. You are aligning with a new vibration and you need to clear space for the people who can meet you there.
And finally, philosophy. Dynamic balance. The takeaway is don't try to be a statue, be a surfer. The wobble is not a failure. The wobble is the process.
That's it. That's the math.
It's a solid math.
The source gives us one final tool, an affirmation, a mantra for the month. I'm going to read it slowly, and I want everyone listening to visualize this.
Let it sink in.
I honor my boundaries, I embrace my worth, and I attract connections that reflect my highest self.
It's perfect. It covers every base we discussed. Honor my boundaries, that's the Saturn work. Embrace my worst, that's the Leo eclipse, since Leo is all about self-worth. And attract connections that reflect my highest self, that's the high road of Venus and Neptune.
It's a shield.
And a magnet.
The source leaves us with a final provocative thought to chew on. It asks, are you ready for this new chapter? But I want to twist that slightly based on our conversation today.
Go for it.
We talked about the danger of being rigid, the danger of old balance. If the ground is shifting, the most dangerous thing you can do is stand still.
The refusal to adapt is the only real failure here.
So the question isn't just, are you ready? It's, are you willing to move?
Are you willing to let go of the shore?
That's the one. Because you can't rebalance the scales if you're holding onto the table.
Oh, that's a mic drop image right there.
I try. But seriously, that is the essence of it.
It is. And remember, Libra is a cardinal sign. People forget that. Cardinal signs are initiators. They are leaders. They aren't supposed to be passive. This month is about the Libra initiating the rebalancing, not just waiting for it to settle.
Taking the weights into their own hands.
Exactly.
Well, to all our Libra listeners,
Yeah.
And the people who love them and who are probably about to get audited by them, good luck.
Be patient with them. They're under construction.
Treat this deep dive as your manual. When the tiredness hits, check the manual. When the ex texts you, check the manual. When the eclipse happens, check the manual.
And remember the surfer.
Be the surfer. Thanks for exploring this with us. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.